All right, back here with the 1J Mark III Supra. When we left off with this thing last time, we got the engine and transmission installed into the car, and we went to go install the wiring harness and do a bunch of tests to make sure that everything was working. And we kind of ran into a bunch of gremlins with the OE harness. The previous owner did a lot of very shady wiring in this thing that we were not super fond of. There was a lot of like really poor connections, poor choice of like larger gauge wiring used.
Yeah, there's a history of owners.
Yeah.
You know, and this car was swapped probably 10, 15 years ago. So between like all 4, 5, 6 owners, like the wire harness was like a culmination of repairs. We got like the starter to work, but not everything was like behaving like we wanted it to. So it's better to like know what you got. So like we've opted to make a wiring harness.
Absolutely. Instead of trying to, you know, go through a bunch of steps to figure out what was wrong and like what needed to be fixed, blah, 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 we're just gonna start from scratch. So you can kind of see here, William got started with laying out some rope just to define some lengths of wire, where like some ends need to terminate and blah, 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 all that stuff. And he is currently in the middle of actually putting together a custom wiring harness for this car. So what we're gonna do today is
we're just gonna like probe around, see where we're getting switch power, make sure the fuel pump's turning on. Because I don't wanna redo everything, but everything I do, I wanna make sure is correct or is like good enough to like last the life of the car. I wanna make a wiring harness. I don't wanna like modify anything outside of the engine harness at this point.
Yeah, so keep the body harness the same, keep a lot of everything outside of the engine harness the way it is. The least amount of work we can do to this wiring wise, the less years it's gonna take off of William's life. Yep. For sure. So this is gonna be like a major step in the right direction to hopefully get this thing to fire. There were some shorts that we put out where, like William said, we got the starter to activate and got a few things to work, but
we weren't getting spark and like the fuel injectors weren't firing. So like that's kind of critical. We didn't have a good way to diagnose the factory ECU, but like ECU Master that we all have experience with, like it's so great.
Yeah.
Like it tells you everything.
And that'll make, even in the future, doing diagnosis significantly easier. So probably hop into this. We're gonna start by probing around. I probably should have been a little bit more prepared for this video. Similar to the story with the last video, I kind of came into this a little unprepared, so sorry for the shaky intro, but Will and I are gonna get our situated. You might notice I bought some mics, a little bit of a test run this video just to kind of see how everything works. So I hope the sound quality is better than it was before. But yeah, cool. I'm excited to hop into it and get this in. Now all of our cars will have a William-made custom harness.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Hell yeah. So really today's goal in this video is to just identify where some of these loose wire ends are, identify our switch power, identify fuel pump works, identify we're getting power to where we need to be getting power on some of the existing harness that's still in the car. So first thing, we're gonna walk our way back to the fuel pump, see if we're getting switch power back there, see if our fuel pump is kicking on. So I'm gonna do my best to try to help explain this to you a little bit. So here, down here, don't ever do this to your car, by the way. The previous owner made a quick, easy access panel to the top of the OEM fuel tank and sending unit with a door hinge.
And some self-tappers.
And some self-tappers. Yeah, that's what you
I mean, like, I respect getting it done.
Yeah, fair enough. Probably not the way I would have done it, but I made our life a little easier. I like
it's very thoughtful.
The molding.
It looks like something that should be like redone.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I got positive and negative held onto these. He's gonna switch the key. Nothing.
Good to know.
So what that basically tells us is we're not getting power back here. So we need to figure out where these wires run, if there's a break somewhere, or if something's not plugged in.
Or find a better place to get switch power and redo the fuel pump. Install, put a 450 in it.
Yeah. So add that to the list. Add that to the ever-growing.
Yeah. Next thing I want to probe is the starter. I mean, and I want to probe like ignition power on this like big B1 connector. So we'll try that out.
Move our way on to those. All right, that B1 connector is gonna be in the car. Here's our multimeter, sir. Here's our reference sheet.
All right, so we've got like the other side of this was like a yellow connector, which I think is called B1. And right now I'm gonna probe 17, which is like ignition power for like the injectors and the igniter.
So when I hit start, we saw voltage there, so there is switch power to that pin.
Well, there's the starter switch is working, so that's good. And we also get power when we're on a different pin. On the 17 pin, we get power in the on position, but not in the start position. Maybe that's like a voltage drop thing. We'll look into that.
What do I think?
What do you think?
I think this factory harness is f***ed.
I mean, like this is what happens. Like, you know, when you know, add a little bit, another person adds a little bit, and then like I buy something, like, you know, you don't know what they did, you know?
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. And there's, just like for an example, we'll use this harness up here that was dangling that we saw earlier. There's a lot of stuff like that kind of riddled throughout pretty much all of the wiring on the car. So what we're really trying to do is just figure out like what all needs to be replaced and what we can keep. It's like the real goal for today.
Yes, sir.
And before we go really any farther, we're gonna look at this multimeter, because I don't know how that could have said 18 volts.
Yeah, that's like a little strange. I'll swap it out for one of my extras.
There you go.
Yeah, $5 multimeter.
One of his extras. My man. Leave it to an engineer to have 14 multimeters in his toolbox.
They're $5. They were $5 at Harbor Freight. I don't know what they are with inflation. Yes, sir.
That's real.
That's why you use a $5 multimeter.
Hell yeah, that one works.
This one works.
Again, we're gonna go back to ground over here on this little hole, this little boss. Oh, probably would be good to have a key in here. All right, so we're going to on position.
Oh, the negative. I need to put the negative on the shit.
Probably help if we plug the battery in. Hey man, it's a Sunday.
Power on. All right, my probe is on the pin.
All right, and we have 13.1.
On the on position.
On the on position, yep.
And now the start position. Still voltage there, so that's good.
Yep.
That's what we want.
Drop.
So I'm gonna tap into switch power. I'm gonna tap into switch power for my relay block on that connector. So I'll use one of the factory connectors I have inside and pin into that for my switch power to my relay block that I want to put in here. And that'll I'll have my relay block control a bunch of other stuff. But like, I've got like 3 body connectors in here that I'm gonna like tap into to maintain some of the functionality on these gauges. So like the coolant temp, the oil pressure,
probably fuel gauge.
Fuel gauge. I think I don't need to touch that circuit, so if it works, like I'm just gonna leave it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. That's
Cool.
Progress. That's good to know that there is switch power there, and that means like I'll just like eventually I'll get rid of like these extra relays, because I'm also gonna control the fans through this relay block and have the ECU control it.
Yeah.
So you can avoid forgetting to switch on your fan.
So you're not halfway down the highway, look down, and you're at 200 degrees.
Yeah. It's good for me.
Hey man, I like switches and gauges. I'm a nerd.
Yeah, I'm like a nerd and I can't remember. So inside, you know, I want to set my ECU and my relay block inside, and like before I just go laying each wire individually out here, it's better to make a template that I can move inside. So like it's easy to crimp, make connections and everything, and so I don't like use more wire than I need to. So like here I've got it set up just like a rope through the firewall. I've got like ignition coil 6, ignition coil 1. I've got a bunch of stuff down to the bottom, like the starter pin, NOx sensor, ethanol content sensor, air temperature sensor, all the ignition coils, TPS sensor, oil pressure. There's like an oil pressure sender down there for the dash that I'm gonna incorporate. And then also like a fan. So I'll like incorporate that into my wiring harness.
Nice.
I believe this is a engine coolant sender for the dash.
Just an easy way to lay out a template so you're not sitting out here with actual wiring and having to run back and forth between your work desk inside and out here to get lengths. And it just makes the process of like actually making the harness easier, because this way, like, he'll basically have, like he said, a template that he can lay out inside and then just match it with actual wiring. And you did this exact same thing on my car, basically, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I did the same thing on the Lexus too.
Yeah.
And both of those like have proven to be semi-reliable.
Yeah, I haven't had a single issue with the wiring harness of my car. So if you are looking to get into making wiring harness, this is definitely a super good method to use, so that you're not trying to like make your harness in the engine bay. You can make it on a flat surface. You can see everything, make everything much easier to work on. You're not trying to like lean over an engine bay to pin a bunch of connectors and shit. So
yeah, you can pin them inside. I mean, I like, before I pin anything, like I'm gonna take it out here one more time, make sure that like my lengths are good, and then like I'll pin all the stuff inside.
Cool. So next step, let's grab our template, move inside, lay everything out, and then we'll show you kind of how that translates into like actual wiring and go from there. All right, this is everything laid out that we have on our template. So this is basically this wiring harness visualized as like lengths. So you can kind of see the farthest thing from like the shortest thing that we need to wire in. So basically we're gonna try to simplify that into just what we need here. And now we can basically copy this by laying out wiring on the table to run to their respective ends, if you will. So this gives us a super good visual of like what everything is gonna kind of laid out in its simplest form, is the easiest way I can put that. Granted, Will is the expert here and not me, so I'll let him kind of dive into more specifics here.
Yeah, so first I kind of want to like figure out roughly how long each segment is. So like I've got like the ECU over here, and then like furthest away I've got fans, crank signal. I'm gonna measure those out, make like a little diagram, and then I'll cut all those wires that go to those items to length.
So this is kind of where we just need to step back, start laying wires out, getting things situated, figuring out what's gonna work best and where, and long process. So we're kind of going as we see fit. We've never made a harness video before, so
yeah.
Definitely interesting to try to film this. All right, just to come in so you guys aren't watching a 2-hour time lapse, the same thing. So what we're doing is, I kind of explained this a little poorly before, we're doing shortest now to longest. We got the longest leg and we figured our shortest leg, and then we're going up from there. So what William's doing is he's measuring first between where these intersections are, and then measuring everything that's coming off those intersections, and then plotting it on this piece of paper here. So as you kind of see the start of our harness here, and as we move forward, each dot represents like where those knots are per se, and then all of the legs and whatnot coming off them. So this gives us a plot of where everything will be once the harness is actually made and wrapped up. More visuals you give yourself, the better. Will help you in the future, not only helping making the harness, but helping diagnosing issues in the future when and if you have them. So now he's actually finished it. You can see start to finish, we have all of our lengths. We know what those lengths are as far as like, you know, sensors, blah, 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 and it's all mapped out here. So this is gonna be our reference sheet for actually making the harness.
Yeah, for cutting lengths the wire.
And then William also kind of plotted more of a relay diagram here, like relay block diagram, so
you could imagine these are like my relays. Over here are my fuses kind of. So like I'm gonna put a 3 amp ECU fuse. Here's like my fuse values up here. So like I wanna have like 3 amp ECU fuse, 5 amps. We'll see, maybe I need a bigger one. Fuel injector, idle, control ethanol sensor, ignition, fuse, fuel pump. And this is down here. So this relay is gonna switch on all of these items. Then this relay is gonna switch on the ignition power. This relay is gonna switch on the fuel pump. And all these 3 relays will be turned on switch power. These remaining 2 relays control the fans, and I'm gonna have the ECU control these fans.
So between these 2 papers, we have a pretty good idea and a map of what we need to make, what items we need, what gauges of wiring we need, fuses, relays, all that good stuff. So we can use these as references now that we have everything plotted to actually start making the wiring harness. Cool, so we can get this pulled off the table. We'll get everything set up. We'll probably show you guys pinning a few of them in, and then it is actually Mother's Day, so I need to skedaddle once we get started on it. But we'll be back tomorrow, hopefully finish the harness up, get it in the car, and maybe hear some suck, squeeze, bang, boom.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Assuming things like the fuel pump and sensors and whatnot are all good, so and that's assuming a lot considering well, the condition of everything else that's in the car, but we're hopeful. All right, and this is how it all starts. So we have a couple of the wires already laid out.
Yep, so we got a fan right here. We've got our crank signal. This is like really the longest wire in the whole harness. And we're just gonna start adding to it all. And then like, so we've got our fan power and we've got our fan ground. So now we've spliced in our ground and this is just gonna go to the engine block. Basically everything is gonna be grounded in one big crimp that gets bolted to the engine block. And that'll end up right here. Oops. Yep.
The name of the game is basically to turn this into what we had here.
Yep, that's right.
Essentially. So we'll leave Will to his devices to get everything all set up here. And when we return, hopefully we should have a full engine harness. So a little bit of YouTube magic. Well, not exactly a full engine harness, but goddamn, you got pretty far, man. I think I severely underestimated how much work it takes to actually make a harness.
So much work, dude.
But he got pretty far with it. A lot of it's done. I don't want to say most of it's done because he's still got quite a bit of pinning to do, but got a lot of.
We're like 10 hours away from a first start.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that we can't get a few other things done in the meantime. So along with the new harness, he has like a couple other odds and ends that he's gonna throw at this thing, like a new radium fuel rail, a new set of injectors, and a few other odds and ends that I feel like we should get on the engine before he's done with the harness, so that way when that thing's done, we can just plug it in and hopefully hear this thing start up. So, what's your plan? You wanna knock the fuel rail out first?
Yeah, I wanna install the fuel rail.
And this thing is nice. Radium killed it with these things. The good old. Look at that bad daddy. And then what injectors are you running with it?
1500 cc injectors, which may seem overkill, and it is, but that's what I have. So.
Hey, modern ECUs should have no problem controlling them, and you'll probably be at like 30% duty with them. So
yeah, they're maxed out.
Yeah.
But like Honda people, like, you know, your 700 horsepower Honda, that's like got like 2000 cc injectors, and they're fine. So yeah, kind of like what Brendan was saying in the last video. Modern ECUs are pretty damn good, so we should have no problem controlling them. But I want to jump right into it, so we're gonna get the old fuel rail off. So these are actually what are known as a side feed injector. So if you can kind of see down there, the injector actually goes through the rail and the fluid feeds into the side of the injector and then goes down. As to where his new injectors are a top feed, where the rail actually sandwiches the injector between the cylinder head and it pushes fluid through the top of the injector and then injects into the combustion chamber from there. So few things that need to be changed out. I imagine there's like a spacer for the injector that we need to put on there, like a little injector cup and a spacer for the rail and whatnot, but it's usually a pretty easy install. Now 1Js have this intake design that kind of hides the rail down there, so we need to move like the sensor and this PCV valve and maybe pull the throttle, whatever we got to do to get access to it. But yeah, there she is. So first things first here, we're gonna try to get this done without removing the intake plenum. So I'm gonna just pull this throttle body off so that I can get a little bit more access. There's a nut down there you can kind of see that holds the rail on, and the whole throttle linkage bullshit is in the way. So I'm gonna pull the throttle body off real quick, probably pull the PCV valve out of the way, maybe move these sensors just so I can open the area up a little bit, and then we'll show you in a bit more detail what that rail looks like. Now while I'm doing that, Willie's gonna get some of the fittings put on this fuel rail and get that all dressed up and ready to drop in. We're wasting no time today, so let's get at it.
All right, there it is. All set up. Got the injectors in, all the height adapters. Got our fancy AEM regulator with the Deutschworks gauge on it. So now comes the question that we have both been asking each other is how well the regulator is going to fit right here. Because the ideal way would have it to sit right at the end of the rail and have it clock so that the gauge faces up and it's readable. We'll see how realistic that is.
And the hose isn't kinked or anything like that. We'll see.
Well, let's do it. Look how pretty this is. All right, Will has opted to take off the upper intake plenum. Some water lines that run around for like the IAC, the throttle body and whatnot that we're just gonna get rid of. They're on a standalone now, so.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get rid of them eventually, so it would be tight to do it now.
And none of that stuff is necessary anymore, so get rid of it. All right, upper intake manifold is off. We're gonna take this opportunity to clean up, get rid of, like there's a vacuum switching valve down there that we're not 100% sure. I think it's for emission stuff. Then you have the water lines that run, like I said, to the throttle body, the idle air control, blah, 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 blah. So time to do some cleanup. Will's making a line for the feed side over there, and then we'll get our return line hooked up. That'll run through kind of this metal pipe there, through this hose. And then our fuel system, at least up here, should be complete. I think we need a pump still, but once we get that done, we can fire the pump over, get our regulator set, because this actually has to kind of sit like this, unfortunately, with the way the throttle body sits. So we won't have super good access to the actual adjusting screw on top. So we'll get the fuel system set up how we want, and then we'll put everything back together. And then we should pretty much be done with the intake side after that, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, I think this is where we're gonna call it for the day. We got our feed line. You're not gonna be able to see it too well, but the feed line's in up here. We still need to get a tube cutter so that we can adapt that to the hard line down there. We got our regulator put in, looking good here. So return line runs to our ethanol content analyzer down here, and then this hose runs back to the factory hard line. So fuel system's basically set up. Gonna swap the pump out when we come back. Gonna get that feed line set up, then we can actually turn the fuel system on, get our pressure regulator set up. Once that's done, we can put the upper intake manifold on, because we deleted what we needed to delete. There is an outlet that comes out of the head right there, and an inlet you can maybe see to the tip of it right there. We're just gonna loop that, and that takes care of all of the water lines that would normally run through like the intake manifold, throttle body, IAC, like I was saying before. So keep things simple there. Standalone ECUs fix a lot of issues. So moving right along, William got a little bit more done on the harness, so we're looking good here. Probably a handful more hours till that's done, so hopefully when we come back, that'll be ready to throw in the car. We'll get everything working, possibly hear this thing suck, squeeze, bang, boom.
Yeah, we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Suck, squeeze, bang, blow.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. That's probably where we're gonna end this video. If you guys like what you saw, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. See y'all next time.